Invincible is considered to be, by many, one of the greatest comics of all time. So when it comes to Battle Beast as a new Invincible series, the question is, can it live up to the hype? Hello everybody, I am back here today to talk to you about a comic that I am so excited to get into with you because it has been one of the most anticipated comics of the year for me, and that is Battle Beast. I got a couple different covers for Battle Beast, so these are the ones that I ended up getting. This one is like, you think maybe this opens up into something. It's kind of just like a cover on the comic, so like that's pretty cool though still. Unfortunately, there were no blind bags left when I went. Sad. But if you had a chance to grab a blind bag, let me know down in the comments what covers you got in your blind bag. And if you didn't get one of the blind bags, but you have an opportunity to get one at your shop, at your local comic shop, your LCS, grab one. Grab as many as you're allowed to grab. Honestly, I feel like this is going to be a really good comic to also grab because I think it's also going to be super collectible. I'm not a person that buys comics to collect them. I buy them mostly just to read them. But I know that is a question a lot of people sometimes have for me of like what I think is like the most, will be worth the most money. And I think this issue number 1, first printing, is going to be one of those. There are reasons for that, and we'll get into that in a moment. So if you don't know about the Invincible Universe Battle Beast comic, and you're kind of wondering, like, what is this even about? Maybe you know Invincible, maybe you don't. It basically follows this character that you see on the cover, Battle Beast, and we're following Battle Beast in the times when he is not in the main Invincible series and sort of following what he's up to, where he is still trying to just find the most worthy opponent he can so that, you know, he can end his life. All of this is explained in the first issue, and I would also say whether or not you are familiar with Invincible, maybe you read the comic, maybe you've watched the show, or maybe neither of those things and you're wondering, can I get into this series? I would say the answer is yes, because in this series they do make it pretty clear of who this character is. You also get his origin, you find out about what he's about in the first issue. And you know what? It's not a lot of exposition, it's just the right amount. So if you're a person that knows the character well, it's not intrusive or anything like that. And for those of you that do know Battle Beast, that do know Invincible, I think you already know why this is a comic that you might be interested in. I think for most of us Invincible fans, Battle Beast is one of the coolest characters that we have from the universe, for good reason. So that's sort of what the comic is about. We do have Robert Kirkman returning to write, we have Ryan Ottley on art, and we have Analissa Leoni on colors, and I'm going to talk about all these lovely folks. We also have Russ Wooten on letters as well. Letters are very important to comics, guys. Never forget this. Love your letterers. So let's start off by talking about Robert Kirkman here. So obviously Robert Kirkman is the writer for Invincible, also working on the series and all of that stuff. And it's been a few years. Invincible ended in 2018, so it's been a little bit since we've kind of come back into the universe. And you might be wondering, you know, why now? Why is Robert Kirkman coming back? Well, my theory was that obviously with Invincible, the show on Amazon Prime doing so well, we've kind of primed the audience, we've primed the stands for a good time to have a new Invincible comic because people will want it. People will want to read it. You'll get it into readers' hands. People will be just climbing up to get those comics, and you're gonna bring some new readers in hopefully, which I think is really exciting. So it's a good time in terms of the money and in terms of just people reading the book, which I think is what Robert Kirkman wants and what all writers want. But the other thing is that at the end of this issue, Robert Kirkman actually has a whole lovely little letter sort of outlining what this book is about, why he's doing it. And what he says is that, you know, well, you might think there's been a gap in Invincible content. So there was a time when Robert Kirkman finished Invincible and then he just said, you know, I'm gonna leave that. And then the show happened. He says that he was actually writing the pilot for the Invincible animated series before we even like finished the Invincible main book. So he actually has never really left the Invincible universe. The whole time since he started, he's been working on something Invincible. So this is something else that he's been working on that has been, I think, a passion project where what he is seeking to do, and I think it's a crazy thing, is top some of the greatest Invincible fights we have. Now, for those of you that have seen season 3, you're probably like, that's crazy because we just got Invincible versus Conquest. But guys, Invincible versus Conquest is an amazing fight. But in my opinion, if you think that's like the heights that we can go to, I wouldn't even say that fight's top 5 for me in terms of all of Invincible. So that really puts us into perspective on when you say you want to top something, how are you going to do that? That's crazy. He says, I don't know if we're going to do it, Ryan Ottley and I, but you know, that's our goal. That's what we're here to do. That's what we're here to try. So hopefully you will join us for the ride and we'll see, you know, if we can do that. And I think it's a really cool goal to set for yourself to try to top something that is considered to be, you know, just one of the greatest works, and especially in terms of the fight sequences, like the fight scenes in Invincible. Some of these fights are like 5 issues or more. There are fights that just go on forever. I mean, there's one with Battle Beast that goes on forever, you know? The final fight with Battle Beast is probably one of the greatest fights in the book. So it's just crazy to me to think, you know, how are we gonna top that? But that's why he says he's come back and what he set out to do. When it comes to Ryan Ottley on the art, I also just have to say, you could buy this book just for the art, because the art is that good. Let me just, like, I don't even know, like, open a 2-page spread in here. Look at this. Look at this. Go back, look at this. Look at the level of detail in here. It's insanity how good this art is, and I am obsessed with the art in this book. It's I think it's actually some of the best art I've seen all year so far. And probably as we go on, it's just going to blow my mind more and more and more. So Ryan Ottley, having him on art, some of the creature designs that we have in here are amazing and have already blown my socks off in issue 1. And add to that we're joined by Analissa Leoni, who I gotta say, wasn't on my radar before this comic necessarily as one of the best colorists out there, but after reading this issue, Leoni might end up being one of my favorite colorists, like, of all time. And that's, I love a lot of really great colorists. Matthew Wilson, Jordi Belair, a few of my favorites. I actually was familiar with Analissa Leoni's work. She worked on another series that I actually really loved, Star Wars Yoda, which is a great series, by the way. But I think the colors in that, while are still being amazing, just aren't quite as vibrant or dynamic, I would say, as what we have in Battle Beast, which is why this one really catches my eye. It makes me think that this is really Leoni just like getting to let her freak flag fly when it comes to colors, because these colors are stunning. And there are a lot of beautiful skies in this book, and skies are like all colors. Mwah. And they are gorgeous skies. So there's just beautiful colors throughout the book, and you know me, I'm a sucker for some pretty colors. But you might also know Analissa Leoni from another book that I also own, Cobra Commander, which also I feel like actually has really, really great colors. So I think we're just watching Leoni like come up as a colorist in a really beautiful way. And it's just an evolution of her colors that I can't wait to see continue. So glad that this book has put her on my radar so I can look out for everything else she does. This book, in terms of what it's going into, I think it's also going to be a really great book to read because it seems like it's setting us up for a deep dive into kind of a character study of Battle Beast. Now, if you've read the original Invincible series, you probably know a lot about Battle Beast, and we do get into that character a lot there, but he is a character that just kind of pops up here and there. There are a lot of gaps in his story, and what this comic I think is going to do is going to fill in some of those gaps and really just hone in, just focus purely on Battle Beast as a character. And he's such a fascinating character, so I can't wait to get a little bit more in his head and just follow his journey and see how it unfolds and what happens to him. And also the fights. The fact that we're trying to top some of the other Battle Beast fights, like, okay, I don't know how we're gonna do that, but based on issue 1, not gonna say it's the best Battle Beast fight I've ever read, but I can see the potential for us to get there within a few issues. And I think Robert Kirkman sums it up pretty well in his letter at the back too, where he says, you know, also FYI, issue 1 is not necessarily that. This is just a primer. And keeping in mind that this is just a primer, what a freaking primer it is in this fight. So when it comes to this issue, we have this idea of a character study of these fights, but you know, how does it really hold up in terms of those things? Is it what it's setting out to be? Is it peak? Is it what I want? Well, before I answer that question for you and answer, whether or not I think this is something that you need to have on your pull list, I just want to tell you about my Patreon really quick, because if you like when I talk about comics, if you want to read comics with me, you can do that over at patreon.com/vampex13. Definitely recommend that you check out the Patreon. We might even do some Battle Beast. We might even read some Battle Beast together. So if that's something you want, I do polls each month and we decide on something for me to review and something for us to discuss live and sort of do a comic book club over there. So I'd highly recommend you check it out. Also, thanks to all the folks that are already patrons. I appreciate you. Now, I think the thing that really sets this comic out for me in terms of the universe is not even as much the character study or the fights, which are, I think, going to be, they have so much potential, but this is a comic that's also going to be building on the universe, building on the world. And I think that is so cool. There's so much potential for it because we're in space. So what that means is that we're not just exploring Battle Beast as a character, we're exploring the whole universe that Invincible is set in. And really, the reach can be very wide. Robert Kirkman also says in his letter that this is a book that is going to kind of start out as a sci-fi book. It's also going to have some fantasy stuff. It's really going to span a few different genres, but pretty much remain sci-fi, except maybe it won't, which I don't even know what that means. It makes me feel like we're going to go all over the place in the universe, and I can't wait to explore just the world and see what we add to it through this book. Obviously, there's also, like I said, lots of gaps in Battle Beast's story in terms of the main line, so there really is a lot of room for them to play with in terms of fleshing out this character's story. For me, if you're wondering, do I recommend this book as something that you need to have in your collection? Yes. I think not even just as a collector. Obviously, collectors already said this might be one you want to get into for these reasons. Also because it's an Invincible comic. Invincible's hot, and it's been a few years, and this is an issue 1 first print. If you can get it, I think it would be a good one to collect. But also, in terms of just a book to read, I think this is one, if you get single issues, you want to add it to your pull list or your pull bin. If you are not a person that gets single issues, that's fine. When the trades come out, get those trades. And this is an ongoing series, so what that means is there's no end in sight. We don't know when this book will end. It could go on for forever. I hope it does. I hope its run, what if its run was longer than Invincible? Would that be crazy? Yes, but I could see it even being possible, to be honest with you. Personally, I'm just very excited because I love having Invincible back on the shelves. For me, I gotta say, I think that this book is a 5 out of 5. And it's great because there's another comic that I want to talk about that's also from Image called Exquisite Corpses, which is another great book that I just read. So it's been a good week for me for comics. Everything I've read so far, I've loved so far this week. So yay. But yeah, I think this is one that you definitely need to get. For me, it's a no-brainer. Buy Battle Beast. Do it for yourself, honestly. Do it for yourself. I want to know what your thoughts are, though, on this first issue. Are you liking it? Are you not liking it? Why? Why not? Have you read Invincible before? Are you a fan of the series? Is this potentially your first introduction to Invincible? And if so, how did that go for you? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments and what you're thinking about it, and let me know what covers you got. I want to know. And if you want to check out the Patreon, just a friendly reminder, the link is in the video description and the pinned comment. I'll see you next time, and until then, friends, stay nerdy. Bye!